Hello, we are starting our geometry unit, which is on angle relationships and being able to classify angles and identify vertical and adjacent angles. An angle has two sides that share a common endpoint and is measured in degrees. The common endpoint that they share is called a vertex. All important words to make sure that you understand. An angle can be named in several ways. The symbol for the angle is this right here. It's not an L, it's like an L that is like angled down a little bit. So make sure you understand and have written down what the symbol for an angle is. So this angle can be named in four ways. One of the ways that we can name it is just by the vertex. If there's only one angle, then we can just say angle Y. We need to have the angle symbol on it. We can also just say angle 2 because 2 is labeled in there. And not always is there a number or an extra letter or whatever in there. And then we can say angle, and the order is super duper important, but we can say angle X, Y, Z. And if I follow those letters and I start at X, where the point is, and I do X, Y, Z, it follows the angle. And the vertex, which is Y, needs to make sure that it is in the middle of that. And then I could also do the opposite, and I could do Z, Y, X. Because then if I follow that, we have, Z, Y, X. Okay, I want you to pause and name this angle in 4 different ways. So we can say angle B, we can say angle 1, we can say angle ABC, or angle CBA. Make sure you have those letters all written in the correct order. Okay, then we look at angles that are being classified according to their measure. 2 angles that have the same measures are said to be congruent. So congruent means that they are the same. So we have a right angle, which is exactly 90 degrees. An acute angle is less than 90 degrees. An obtuse angle is between 90 and 180 degrees. And then a straight angle is exactly 180 degrees. Pause the video and classify each of these angles and label it underneath each angle. So we have this one, which is less than 90 degrees, so that's acute. This one is obtuse because it's greater than 90 but less than 180. This one is straight because it's a straight line and it's 180 degrees. And then this one is a right angle because it's 90 degrees. This little box right here in the corner tells us that it is 90 degrees. We usually don't assume that it's 90 degrees unless the little box is there. 2 angles are vertical if they are opposite angles formed by the intersection of 2 lines. So if you look at this example right here, you can tell that we have 2 lines that are crossing that makes a bunch of different angles. So we can see that 1 and 3 are vertical angles. So 1, and then 3 are vertical because they're opposite, and they have the same angle. And then we can see that the other ones, 2 and 4, so if I go like that, so the red and the black are vertical, and then both of the blues are vertical, are also vertical, and then they're also the same. So vertical angles are congruent, which means that they have the same angle measure. Using the figure at the left, so right here, find 3 pairs of vertical angles. So you can pause the video, try to write 3 pairs, and then come back and check. So this time we can't just write angle X or C or D or whatever. We have to be specific of what the angles are. But I can see that right here, this angle and this angle are exactly opposite and vertical. So we would say angle AXB and then angle EXD. You could put it in opposite order. You could say BXA and DXE, but notice that X is in the middle of each of them. Then we have another one that we could do, so if I do the opposite next to them, both of the red ones, so then I would say angle AXE, and then angle BXD, or you can switch them around as long as X is in the middle. And then there's a couple other, but we have to be really careful with which ones are vertical. But if I look at these right here, that would be vertical to that one. So then it'd be AXF and CXD. And then if you did the other section of it, then you could have had FXE and then angle BXC. And then there's also adjacent angles that share a common vertex, a common side, and do not overlap. So if we look at this example here, adjacent angle pairs are 1 and 2, so we can see like these two right next to each other are adjacent. So angle 1 and 2 are adjacent. Angle 1 and 4 are also adjacent. If we look here, angle 5 and angle 6 are adjacent because they share a vertex and a wall. Here's another example, like angle C is adjacent with angle A because they're literally right next to each other. Okay, angle C is also adjacent to angle 4 because they share a side. So using the figure at the left, this one, same figure as before, find 3 pairs of adjacent angles. So there's a lot on here. You can pause and find some, and then I'm just gonna write down a few that you could have had. So we could do this angle right next to that angle. So I could do angle FXA and angle AXB. I could also do angle FXA, and it's next to, on the other side, angle FXE. And then if we go over here, there's a lot more, but just for like one more example, I could do angle CXD is adjacent to this one right here, which would be angle BXC. Again, notice that X is in the middle of all of them because that's the vertex of all of the angles. Angles A and B are vertical angles. The measure of angle A is 35 degrees. Find the measurement of angle B. So I'm going to draw myself a little example here. It tells me A and B are vertical, which means they're across from each other. So I'm just going to do A and B, and then C and D. If it tells me angle A is 35 degrees, and these are vertical from each other, that means angle B is also going to be 35 degrees because remember vertical angles are the exact same. Okay, looking at the next one, the measurement of angle XYZ equals 75 degrees. Find the measure of angle WYZ. When there's an M in front of it, that means measure of the angle. So XYZ, I'm going to follow it. So start at X, go down to Y, go to Z. That tells me, okay, the whole angle is 75 degrees. So that means, and XYW and WYZ are adjacent angles right next to each other. So that means those two angles together equals 75 degrees. So 47 degrees plus X equals 75 degrees. So then what we can do on both sides, we can just subtract 47 from both sides. So we can do 75 minus 47, and we would get X equals 28 degrees. So that would go right here, 28 degrees. And then we would just want to double check 28 plus 47 and make sure that equals 75, which it does. So then there's our answer, which we would then write as angle WYZ equals 28 degrees. In the above diagram, which of the following pairs of angles are not adjacent? So I'm looking at these. So I'm just going to go by what my multiple choice answers are and go from there. So angle A and B. So here's angle A and here's angle B. They are adjacent because they're right next to each other. They're sharing a side and a vertex. So that would be taken out because they are adjacent. Angle B and C. So here's B, here's C. They do not share a vertex. They have the same side, but it's not next to each other. So those are not adjacent, but I'm going to check the rest. So then I can look at C and D. So angle C and angle D are right next to each other. They share a side and a vertex. So they are adjacent, which means I take that out. And then D and E, angle D and angle E also are adjacent. So take that out. So my answer then would be B. The diagram shows a pair of parallel lines and a transversal. So just to remind you, these lines right here are parallel. And a transversal, which of the following pairs of angles are vertical angles, also called vertically opposite angles? So again, I'm just going to go through and see which pairs are vertical. So S and Z. So we have S and Z. They're opposite from each other, but they're not on the same angle, so no. And then U and W, here's U, here's W, not vertical because they're not opposite from each other. And then we have T and Y, so here's T, here's Y. Again, they're opposite from each other, but they're not vertical, like in the same set of angles, so no. So then I'm assuming it's going to be U and T, but I'm going to check it just to make sure. So we have U and T. Vertical is exactly opposite from each other, so then the answer would be D. That's all I have. Have a great day.